Senator McCain, I want to ask you about some national security issues and trade issues in a moment. But first, I'd like to get your reaction to President Trump reportedly repeating to congressional leaders last night his unfounded claim that 3 to 5 million illegally cast votes cost him the popular vote victory. Your colleague, Senator Lindsey Graham, told CNN today it's the most inappropriate thing for the president to say without proof. Do you agree with Senator Graham?
Well, I obviously have seen no evidence of illegal voting, but my focus has been on national security, getting General Mattis in as Secretary of Defense, working with Pompeo, doing those issues that are national security. A long time ago, honestly, I've stopped reacting to everything that the president has stated and try to work on the issues and the people that he's going to surround himself with, whom I'm very pleased with as far as national security is concerned.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about Russia. You've been very outspoken. CNN's reporting that U.S. investigators are scrutinizing late December calls between President Trump's National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and Russia's ambassador. Do you have confidence in General Flynn's ability to do his job?
I do. I have no information about these phone calls, although I don't think it's abnormal. But what I am worried about is our entire approach to Russia and the sanctions, which I believe must not only be in place but increased. Look, this guy is a war criminal. He used aircraft with precision weapons to strike hospitals in Aleppo, intentionally slaughtering innocent men, women, and children. That's disgraceful. He's partitioned Ukraine. He has taken Crimea. He continues to put enormous pressure on the Baltic countries and others, and he is our major threat.
Do you think President Trump at all shares any of that conviction in Russia? I mean, you've called Russia a grave danger to the United States.
I know that General Mattis and now Director of CIA Pompeo, General Flynn, I believe, but I also know General Kelly. I know they all share my view. And so I hope that their views, and I know that President Trump really respects them, will have an effect on his view of Russia.
It was just yesterday, Sean Spicer, the press secretary, said that the president would not rule out joint U.S.-Russia operations against ISIS. Is that something you would support?
I would be deeply disturbed if such a thing were happening. Let me just give you the example. They have been bombing and striking the moderate opposition, people that we armed and trained. Meanwhile, ISIS retakes Palmyra, and they don't do anything about it. It certainly shows the Russians' priorities, which are not ISIS. They are to consolidate Bashar Assad in power and consolidate their now significant, in fact, in some ways, the most powerful role in the Middle East. That's a long, long way from when they got thrown out of Egypt in 1973.
So do you think, in a sense, partnering with Russia allegedly against ISIS, are you saying that would be tantamount to partnering with the Assad regime and I guess by extension Iran?
Of course. Of course. I mean, does anybody believe now that Bashar Assad is going to willingly leave power? I would remind you that it was then President Obama that said Assad must go. It's not a matter of when, but whether it's a matter of when. And now there has been tacit accommodation to the realities on the ground. And the realities on the ground are that the Free Syrian Army and our efforts to assist them have been totally negated because of a total failure of Obama policies and strategies. There has been none, and we're paying a very heavy price for it.
It is interesting because the president, even during the campaign, kept saying that partnering with Russia, against terrorism would be a good thing.
Well, again, all I can say is that I know that he has great respect for the national security team that he has assembled around him. I believe it's very likely that he will listen to them. Look, Vladimir Putin is a KGB thug who wants to restore the Russian Empire. And he has, as I just said, partitioned Ukraine, taken Crimea in violation of a solemn Budapest agreement, putting pressure on, and may have, or did try to affect the outcome of this election. I don't believe that he did, but that would be a blow, a huge blow to our ability to determine the fundamental of what democracy is all about.
In Iraq, the president the other day reiterated his thought about taking Iraq's oil. He said, we didn't do it before, maybe we'll have another chance to do it, or words to that effect. Does that make any sense to you, the notion of the U.S. taking the oil of a sovereign nation that we are allied with?
No. No. I don't get it.
And that's not something you heard from General Mattis or anything else. I mean, I haven't heard any, military personnel actually talking about taking the oil.
Well, first of all, I don't know exactly how you would do it, but no, I have not heard any of his national security advisors mention the topic. In fact, I hadn't heard the president mention it until he sort of did the other day.
Right. Yeah, it was the first time I'd heard him mention it since during the campaign. I'm curious whether it's Russia or Iran or China, any number of potential hotspots. Do you believe President Trump should be receiving President's daily brief, the PDB, which is the highest level intelligence briefing every day? He got it yesterday, I understand, wasn't on his official schedule today.
Well, I don't know if he should receive it every day, Anderson, because it doesn't change that radically from day to day unless there's some kind of emergency. I know that President Obama used to get his briefing online sometimes, and I think you miss the give and take with your briefers when you do that. But I believe that the president will pay close attention. His trip out to the CIA, I think, was symbolic in a lot of ways of his confidence in the CIA and the intelligence agencies.
On trade, you've been critical of the president backing out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The White House argues that America can get better deals by negotiating individual deals with different countries, and that's something President Trump is especially good at.
Well, I hope so, but what the signal that's been sent is that we have basically ceded the playing field to the Chinese, who are now embarking in a very large trade agreement and also individual trade agreements with other countries in the region. I think it was a serious mistake. I understand that both Hillary Clinton and the president had opposed TPP. I believe that the American worker can compete with any worker in the world, and I am confident that it is very important that we have trade agreements with other nations, wherever they are, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region, where 60% of the world's economy rests. So I have no doubt that there is great celebration in Beijing that the United States has stopped its advocacy for an overall trade agreement.
Big picture, are you very concerned about the idea of America no longer having a role in the world that it has had traditionally? There's a lot of talk about protectionism or American isolationism now, depending on how you look at it.
First of all, Anderson, I think you have to look at a map of the world in January of 2009 and look at a map of the world today. I mean, there is now the greatest threat to the New World Order that was established around 1947, 70 years ago, and it is under enormous strain, whether it be the refugees, whether it be the rise of nationalist parties. The list goes on, but particularly the successful re-entrance and re-emergence in a very powerful way of Russia. China basically violating international law by filling in. I could spend the rest of our program describing the terrific strains that are now on what was once called the New World Order. I don't place the blame for that on the president, the present president. I blame it on the previous president and his team that basically withdrew America and the consequences of creating a vacuum. And we've got more challenges than we've had in 70 years.
Do you see this new administration, though, as being as forward in the world as you would like?
I have confidence in the individuals who are on his national security team. Some of them I have known for, Dan Coates and I probably shouldn't admit this, have known each other for over 30 years. So I do have confidence in those individuals. The question is does the president listen to them? he has expressed enormous respect for them. So that leads me to believe that he will listen to them and listen to their advice and counsel and act on it.
Senator McCain, I appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Thank you.